Okay, I hit record because if I fuss anymore, I'm not gonna do this. So I'm just gonna do this. It is Monday, September 30th. It is the last day of September. Tomorrow's October 1st. And it is currently moon hour. So I'm trying something new because cool. Patience. And free spirit. I'm trying something new because I want to show a side of me that very few people have been able to see, and now even less people get the chance to see. And I want to change that. I feel a little bit nervous. I'm just going to be honest about how I'm feeling. I feel a little bit nervous. I feel like I am measuring my words, and I'm getting used to that being something that I do when I communicate. But in any case, we're coming slowly to the end of the peak. We're coming to a point of the solar eclipse in Libra, which is in 2 days, T-minus 2 days. And a lot's been coming up. However, I will say that I am pretty fortunate comparatively to the people I know who actually have planets in Libra. I have no planets in Libra. And so my Libra house is empty. However, my Libra house deals with communication. And so how I am communicating and have been communicating is currently evolving. It's vastly changing, actually. And I've learned that my communication style is literally a combination of 3 things. It is direct, but gentle and curious. I love to ask questions. And I find that when I don't ask questions, there's a lot of information that is left to be discovered that could have been discovered, that could have been known. And a lot of the time, I found that when people don't ask questions, including myself, there are unnecessary assumptions made where there could have been clarity if there was just a simple question asked. And sometimes we say a simple question, but sometimes questions are not simple or easy to ask. But in any way you look at it, I feel like questions are important because they get to really, excuse me, you'll find that happens a lot. In any case, questions allow for discussion to take place. And when discussion takes place, perspectives and mindsets are shifted. And that's where real growth and evolution comes. So I'm leaning into my curiosity. And that is likely my Mars, which is in the sign of Gemini. So I've always been a curious child, and asking questions has gotten me in hot water a lot. But I'm not a child anymore. And I think that people, if not everyone, could really learn from asking questions. I mean, literally, how else do you learn if you don't ask questions? So I'm making space and making room for myself to ask questions out loud in a space that I create, where I allow others to partake, whether it's just watching me process and understanding more about me, thus mirroring and reflecting more about yourself, or if it is literally a discussion that can happen. I'm vastly open to both. I think I do want to express, however, that though I'm open to learn, I love being a student. I really do. And I'm very curious. That does not mean or does not guarantee that anyone will change my mind. My mind changes frequently, I believe. And I don't think that I necessarily hold on to too many beliefs, like that I take them too seriously. I do have my own set of beliefs and limiting beliefs that I'm also, cycling through and getting rid of. However, I think that when people come to discussions with the intention to change your mind, to change my mind, they're always frustrated. Because if you meet someone with that intention, I don't think people realize, we feel that, I could feel that, people feel that. So when you come to someone with the intention, I'm changing your mind, you won't find too many people, if you do, that will take kindly to that. I find that when you address or when you come to people with the intention of changing their mind, and they can feel that, you are met with resistance. They will meet you with resistance, because that's not really a receptive place. If you are coming to a conversation or a discussion or anything, communicating with someone with the intention of changing their mind, how are you coming with the intention of your mind being changed? So relationships are reflections. They are mirrors of ourselves. So if you come to a discussion or a conversation with the intention, I'm going to change your mind, you're likely going to be reflected that, where it's like, well, I'm going to change your mind. And then nobody's mind is changed. Nobody's mind is shifted or mindset is shifted. It's just doubled down. And most of the time, the things that we double down on aren't necessarily the best things. They're usually things connected to what people will call ego, connected to low vibe things, because if you really think about it, the only things that we grip onto are things that lead us to believe that they are all that is. There's nothing else. There's nothing less. That's lack and scarcity. So when you grip onto things, you're literally saying, this is what I'm worth and I'm not worth more. And anyone who realizes that, one, that's not true, because abundance is all. It's literally the concept of all, right? So if everything exists, then everything is connected to abundance. All things are connected. You know what I mean? So holding on to anything literally makes no room for anything else. And so it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. When you open your hand and you are receptive to more, you receive more, and then there is like a giving and a taking that can happen. So you are receptive as well as you are giving. And when you come to conversations and discussions like that with the intention just to simply give and to receive, so much more shifted, so much more happens. And usually what I find is a beautiful collaboration can spring forward, come about, be created, birth, or be birthed. So I'm saying that to say, like, I love that part of discussion and communicating, and I want to make space for that. So in form or in line with curiosity is that mindset of being a student, that mindset of the Gemini energy. I'm gonna leave that there. The other part, the gentleness, comes from my Cancer, my Mercury in Cancer, more specifically. And it's really just the ability to feel people's feelings with boundaries, which I am getting so much more used to, feeling people's feelings with boundaries. It's a beautiful thing, really, because I'm learning that having empathy for someone does not mean feeling what they're feeling, like being in their feelings. That's news to me. That is something, a new understanding for me to practice, because I've always believed that if I don't feel your feelings, I'm not being empathetic to you. And that's not true. That's actually farther from the truth for me, at least. I don't know how other people feel. But when it comes to feeling, I won't call myself or consider myself a master, but I am someone who's always felt. I've never not felt. And I used to feel, or used to want to feel, jealous of people who could not feel their feelings, like all you Capricorns out there and people with heavy Capricorn placements. Child, I cannot relate. I don't understand. I'm on the other side, the sister side, the feeling side. My Cancer, yeah, it's deep. So deep. So not feeling was never an option for me. However, what I didn't realize was I get to choose what I'm feeling. And that if I don't take control of what I'm feeling, if I don't, set the intention that I feel my feelings always and sometimes only, I didn't realize that I was really out here living my life, jumping in and out of people's auras like nobody's business, like in and out of people's that 6 feet apart type thing. Sometimes I didn't need to be within 6 feet to feel you. Actually, maybe a lot of the time. And it's a beautiful thing to understand that having awareness of feelings allows you to be gentle in your communication, but also it's not necessary to be in other people's feelings. Like, I can just observe your feelings. And because I have my own feelings and I understand how feelings are and how they feel, and they can be overwhelming and they can be a lot, like the ocean, all of that, deep. Like, they are valid. Whatever you're feeling is valid. And coming from the mindset of all feelings are valid, I can just respect it for that reason. But I don't need to feel it to respect it. I don't need to feel your feelings to respect it. I have my own feelings. And I have felt all of them, even if I haven't been able to identify all of them, which is important as well. Identifying the feelings that you feel is important. So anyway, that helps me be gentle. Now the directness, that part, I feel like that part was not openly received from me as a child, me being direct in my communication. And so I inadvertently learned to be indirect in my communication, and that has caused a lot of miscommunication unnecessarily. So that I'm undoing, because I don't like that. I've never liked that, but I was too scared from past experience to be misunderstood as mean or ill-intending when I was so direct that it was like blunt and not nice. So if I lean into all of those parts, literally, the Cancer Mercury and the Gemini Mars, which that's a whole other thing. I'll go into planets another time. We'll take our time. I love astrology. Astrology is my language of self at this time. But again, I'm a forever student. I love learning. And though I love astrology enough to commit to it, I want to make it very clear, like evidently clear, that it will not always be the only science that I use. And I don't even think it is. I think it's just the primary one. But I've been open to a lot, like human design, even cardology. I've done as many personality tests as I come across, just to understand myself better. Yeah. There's some Neptunian vibes around my sun, let's just say it like that. So if you can relate to that, it means that, or at least how it feels for me, here we go with the feelings. How it feels for me is like, if my sun or myself is a mirror, there's like a fog around it. It's like a fog. Like we're in a sauna. And so sometimes if somebody opens the door, there's a cool breeze I can see in the mirror. But most of the time, it's very hard. Like I have to do a lot of work to see clearly. But other parts are not that hard. Just the sun. Just the brightest part. Anyway. So yeah. Lastly, the directness. As long as it's balanced out, there's no need to be worried about being received. I feel like if anything, what can happen and tends to happen, especially if you have Pisces placements, it's easy for people to project onto you when you hit an uncomfortable point. And I will take responsibility for that because I had terrible boundaries. So if I saw something, I would tell you something thinking like it's my place to tell you because you need to know. And that's not true. That's not true. And sometimes the things that I see ain't my business. I don't really need to see them. And I don't really need to do anything about what I see. I can see. I can third eye see people's feelings. But at the same time, just because you see something does not mean your bias is not applied to it, and does not mean you understand what you're seeing. That's why it's important, and that's why I feel like not everything I see is my business, because just because I'm seeing how you feel does not mean I understand why you feel how you feel. Doesn't mean I understand the context and the nuance. Doesn't mean that, I understand, or like, doesn't mean that I have all of the information to make the right choice to say, like, you should express how you feel, or you should not tell how you feel, or what you should do with your feelings. That's not my place, So I've learned that. And I think that it's important to give space to people to come to you with the questions about what you see and what you can see. That way it's, one, received with appreciation because it's what they asked for. And two, there's less accidental karmic repercussions for inserting yourself in something you shouldn't have been. Yeah, so there we go. So yeah, as long as those things are rounded and they're all together, the gentleness with the directness, because sometimes being gentle is just like being around the bush and you're not saying what actually needs to be said. And then not being curious, you're like hitting a wall for what? Like, the curiosity, the Gemini immutable energy allows it to be adaptable, allows you to flow, allows you to move, a bit more gracefully. However, without the balance of the others, you could be a bit chaotic. I feel like the only thing that's missing in my communication, I call it a triangle, is earth energy, which personally I'm not too pressed about, because if I look at it, I could say, my Gemini Mars is in the earth house. So that stabilizes communication a little bit. But anyway, that's what's been coming up with this. What mainly has been coming up with this Libra season. Actually, since Venus moved into Libra, that has been coming up front and center for me. And so I'm excited for this communication evolution that is happening, which is really just like a communication remembering with a bit more roundedness, maybe even groundedness. Because I feel like I always communicated like this. It just wasn't a triangle yet. It wasn't all connected and it wasn't all smooth. It's like a rounded triangle. Might as well call it a circle then. Who knows? In any case, it's been fun. And I would like to keep doing more of these where I can just process out loud. I'm learning that that's a big part of how I communicate. And I have come to love that about me.